Right, tonight I am going to be talking about Affinity Publisher, which is a desktop publishing software that was, I think it went live, was released last year, 2019. It had a free beta program for a little while before that. I was a part of the beta program, and then I bought it basically. They had a small discount for their launch week, and I picked it up then. So I've been using Affinity Publisher for quite a while. I've used it for previous games that I've done, so I'll just flash up some of the stuff I've used it on. But basically, if you've heard of InDesign or Scribus, or there's lots of other desktop publishing programs out there. But InDesign is the big one. If you've heard of that, then you'll know exactly what this is basically doing. It's doing what InDesign does. It's desktop publishing, which basically means we use it to create documents. So all those really cool looking PDFs that you see, people are usually using, have usually been using InDesign to create them, in terms of the really graphic heavy ones with a lot of stuff going on. But that's kind of changed now. Affinity Publisher has slowly started changing things, and it's come up as this basically serious competition. It's not free, but it's much more affordable than InDesign. InDesign, being an Adobe program, has a subscription model, which I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of, the Creative Cloud. Testing, can you hear me? Testing. Okay. Yeah, good. So there will be a bit of delay anyway. That's inevitable, but at least it's better. It's not really long. Cool. So, Affinity Publisher. That's what I'm going to be playing around with now. And yeah, I wanted to show something I've used it for already, which is my Year Zero Mini project. So let me just open that up very quickly. Would have been good to have this actually prepped, ready to go before I started streaming, but hey ho. Okay. So this thing here is Year Zero Mini. Year Zero Mini is a lightweight game that I've created. It's in kind of a beta mode at the moment on DriveThruRPG for free. Anyway, this is how it looks. So this is actually open in Adobe Acrobat. So I've got a draft watermark on it. These are all hyperlinks, so if you hover on them, remember I'm in Acrobat, I'm not in anything else. It'll take me to the links I want to go to. You can see here page 5 is hyperlinked, so if I hover over that, I click on that, it's going to jump me straight to, page 5 here. So if that's, okay, hold on. Let's do it like this. Try that again. There you go, jumps me to page 5 when it's in single display mode. But anyway, I set this up with all the art kind of assets and the columns. I've got tables in here, hyperlinks, all sorts of stuff. And this is the sort of things. Here's a table example. This is the sort of thing that I'm going to be using or setting up tonight for Pitchfork. And the reason I kind of wanted to do this while I'm still writing Pitchfork is because I actually, if I'm just writing the game without thinking, so let me take a step back. One of the things I love about game design is actually putting stuff together in a desktop publisher. My day job, I actually work a little bit with this. I teach it at a school. I'm part of a yearbook club, so I kind of oversee the yearbook for a big high school or secondary school. So we're looking at we're looking at Affinity Publisher all the time, although we haven't been using it because of COVID, of course. So yeah, for me, it's something I really enjoy using, and it's something I wanted to start thinking about. When it comes to writing the game, I'm trying to think about trying to keep the rules concise, because I actually want my final product to be fairly compact. I want to be thinking about spreads, and on each spread, a spread being 2 pages next to each other. So here's a good example. Hypertellurians, great game by Frank Redding. And basically a spread is when you look at a game, you open it up like this. two-page spread. So I'm going to be using some terminology here, I guess. Just kind of forgive me if you already know what a lot of this means, but effectively things like this where you have some artwork which is bleeding over to the second page. You have page borders which are meant to be going across the page, kind of like continuously across. So when you're looking at a PDF, or if you're only looking normally at like a single page spread. But when you're designing for something to be printed, then you want to be thinking about spreads. And I think you can do both. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do. I'm going to be thinking about spreads. I'm going to be setting this up to kind of be using spreads. And yeah, and having a think about the end product for how Pitchfork's going to look. And that means I can actually... It's gonna kind of tailor how I'm writing the game when I'm writing it for playtesting, because I'm gonna try and be concise in certain areas. I'm gonna be trying to flesh areas out in a little bit in other areas where it's like, okay, I actually want to spend more time, more page real estate on certain areas. Or as I'm writing, if I decide that it's not clear enough, I need to extend it a little bit. Then that's where I can fiddle with the desktop publishing element too. It might sound a bit tail wagging dog. Like, why would you start doing the graphic design elements, the layout, before you've actually finished writing the manuscript? If you look at classic or traditional advice on this, the traditional advice is you write a manuscript and then you start the layout. And while you're doing layout, you're getting it edited. Somebody else is looking at it, scrubbing the words, and effectively you come up with something in the end. But that's for kind of traditional, big, chunky role-playing books. That's the general advice, where it doesn't really matter if your words are flowing from one page to the next, because you're just going to have as many pages as you need to get the information out there. However, there are a lot of people doing some very interesting things in the design space. People like John Harper. John Harper wrote Blades in the Dark, and John Harper's basically did all of his writing, not in like Google Docs or Word or some other word processor or Notepad or something. He wrote it directly into InDesign. So he was actually working within the constraints of what he wanted as the end product while he was writing the actual thing. When I wrote Year Zero Mini, I mean, it's only a 5-page mini game with an OGL on 6-page. I had a very specific thing in mind. I wanted a single page for character creation, which I've got here, a single page for the core rules, a single page to cover things like luck points and handling knowledge, which are kind of like slightly advanced topics. One page for game master advice on how you run the game, and a final one for making settings. This is a setting agnostic game. And because that was I really wanted to have that as part of the design of this game, which is, you could just print off individual pages of these and just have them when you need them. So this is the rules, plus it can double as a sort of game aid, right? And it's a rules-like game, so it's definitely possible. And so therefore, I wrote directly into Affinity Publisher as I was creating the game. So I was working within those constraints. I'm not necessarily going to do that with Pitchfork. We'll see where we get to. I'm quite happy with the approach I'm doing now, but it will help me a little bit to think about how much I want to devote to different sections. So anyway, that's why I'm doing it. And other games, I know Merkborg, for example, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that the layout was done for that game while it was being written, because that's basically how it looks. I actually have a copy of it here. It's an art-heavy, I mean, if I just open to like any page, that doesn't look like manuscript that's been, squeezed into a desktop publishing program. That looks like this has been made to fit on a page. It's a piece of art, basically, right? So I'm not going to be trying to do something like Merkborg. That's far too advanced for me. I also lack the artistic skills, but I might have some layout skills. So I'm going to be doing something a little bit more traditional. But at the same time, I'm also going to be trying to stick to thinking about how I want things to look on the, in the final product. And in fact, the inspiration I'm using for this is this game right here, Mothership. Mothership is like half-sized digest sort of game, and it's been written very, very much with with layout in mind. you have on every spread, you have a rules topic, specifically either on one page or on a 2-page spread. It's very easy to find the information you need. You just need to flick to the right page. It's got a table of contents, which is very easy to reference and jump around to. It's great. It's really easy to use. I've run a game with it as well myself, and it was a joy to use. So Mothership is my inspiration here in terms of trying to keep things concise, trying to keep things constrained to spreads, trying to keep rules like that. Like, if I want to talk about a specific topic and it needs a bit more real estate, I'm going to be devoting maybe a 2-page spread to it, but I'm going to constrain it to that 2-page spread. And if there's certain elements of it that start sprawling, then I'll wait and go on to the next page or next 2-page spread to start talking about that other topic. Astanates has just asked about, do I have an idea how long it's going to be page-wise? I don't know yet. I think I'll probably have within 20 to 30 pages, maybe I'll have the bulk of the rules and the character creation done. But I don't know yet. That's actually one of the things I'm going to be looking at right now. So, here it is. This is Affinity Publisher. This is what it looks like when you start it up. And the first thing to think about is the size of the size of the document I want to be making. And I want this to be sort of a digest size thing, but I also, I might be changing this later, but I'm thinking at the moment, because I might want to print this off myself at home, being in Europe, we use A4 paper size, so I'm going to go with half of that. And I'm going to be aiming for something which is roughly, so this is an A5 piece of paper here. If I was to fold that in half, that's A5, right? Which is like half letter if you're from North America. And if I hold that up to, for example, Mothership, which is an American game, it is very, very, very similar in size. So I guess this is half letter. Not that I'm trying to emulate Mothership, but I really like that format. It's soft cover. It's easy to hold in the hand. It's not going to be a huge amount of pages. And it's easy to read if you want to read in bed or read in a chair, something like that. It's a nice form factor. I also like digest size books. I like graphic novel format as well. But for this one, I'm going to be sticking with A5. So A5 is one of the things that is kind of answering your question, Astaneta. A5, the actual size of the page is going to determine how many pages we're going to have overall. So anyway, I'm going to click on A5 here. So that's the size I want. It's got standard page width and page height here. DPI, I'm going to leave it 300. I want it in millimeters. That's fine. I want it in portrait orientation. I'm going to leave all this as it is, except I'm going to be starting with number of pages. I'm going to be upping that to something like... Let's start with 33. You might think that sounds like an odd number. However, I want to keep it to multiples of 4, because if I'm getting this printed, there'll be 4 pages on a single sheet of paper that gets kind of bound into the book. Sometimes it can be 8 or 16, depending on what kind of binding I'd be going for. And in fact, for print on demand, it doesn't matter so much. But generally speaking, you want to be trying to aim for multiples of 4. 32 pages is what I'm going to be starting with, and the extra page is for the cover. So the cover is the first page, and then it's going to be spreads after that. No, Forbidden Lands is bigger. Forbidden Lands is, I think it's C5, which is this kind of strange Swedish format. So this is Forbidden Lands here, Raven's Purge, but they're all this format. If I hold A5 up next to it, you can see that it's a bit bigger. But if I hold A4 up next to it, well, A4 is definitely bigger. So it sits somewhere between A5 and A4. Yeah. And that's fine. The reason I've gone for A5 as well is because this size format is not supported on Drive-Thru RPG for print on demand. And print on demand is something I definitely want to be offering for Pitchfork eventually. I might be doing an offset print run of it as well, but certainly print on demand is key to my sort of business strategy for it. And yeah, that I can get similar to that format for Forbidden Lands, but I'm happy with A5 to start off with. And this is one of the things, if I start finding that the format is not going to work, I need more space on the page for artwork or for text or whatever, I can come back and increase that, and it's not actually difficult to do within the program. And I'll show you how that all works. So let me just quickly do a bit more on this. Yeah, so Magnus is talking about Forbidden Lands as a format. It's a very traditional format in Sweden, and I think Holland also uses the same format. But yeah. Ironsworn. I'm just catching up with chat here, so give me a second. Here's Ironsworn. Ironsworn is Digest. Now, Digest is an American size format. It's also what Blades in the Dark is. It's 6 inches by 9 inches, and that's a little bit bigger than A5. So if I hold this up, again, this is my A5 kind of dummy page here. It's almost the same width, but Digest is significantly taller. Now that is definitely something I could work with. The problem is if I want to print off any prototypes at home, I don't have double digest size paper that I can use. I have A4, and A4 folded in half is A5. I can print it easily in Adobe Acrobat as a booklet, and that's what I want to do. I actually want to print a prototype off at home, hold it in my hands, and see what it looks like. Is the font too small? Because I'm looking at it on the screen, it's going to look one way. When I actually have it printed off in my hand and looking at it, I might be thinking, holy shit, I can barely read this. Why did I go for a font size of 8? With this font, it's completely ridiculous. And I need to have something that is relatively, feels relatively like the final product. So that's why I'm not going with Digest initially. I could always change to that, and Digest is certainly supported by Print on Demand. It's one of the most popular formats. All of the Apocalypse World, most of the Apocalypse World games, for example, are printed in Digest. Anyway, G5. Yes, Magnus, sorry. I said C5, I think. I always get... C is the envelope size. G5 is right. That does ring a bell. In fact, we can just do a quick Google search here and do Swedish book format C5. Do it again. G5. Paper size Wikipedia, and we go down to Swedish extensions. Swedish have here the G5 169. Let me get my ruler out. Yeah, G5. Okay. Checking it anyway. So Forbidden Lands here. I got my ruler. Super sharp ruler that could double as a weapon. And yeah, it's 245-ish millimeters. Is that right? G5 240. Oh, I'm looking at the cover, which is going to be a bit bigger. Yes, that's right. 240. It looks like 240 roughly by 168, 169. Yeah. Anyway, so G5, and as I said, you can't get G5 print on demand from DriveThruRPG because it's an American company and they don't do all of these international sizes. They do the kind of the standard ones that are kind of used in more places than just Sweden and Holland. In fact, it just might be Sweden that uses the G series. Oh no, Netherlands here. Popular in Sweden and Netherlands for dissertations. Yeah, so print on demand, European company, DriveThruRPG do print and ship out of the UK, and I believe they're looking at they use Lightning Source, which is what Amazon do print on demand with. And I've heard that because of Brexit, that they're also looking at printing. They might be considering using printing services in Europe rather than just in the UK. But I think that depends on how the trade discussions go with Brexit. I'm not going to Brexit. I don't want to talk about that really. So yeah, if I do an offset print run of this, I actually there's actually a print house locally which I would be using. So I'd be supporting a local business and getting my book printed locally, offset, and then shipping from home or finding some solution. That saves me shipping costs from it being shipped here because it's just a 10-minute drive down the road. I've used the printing house before for publications at the school that I work in. We're going to be using it for the yearbook, for example. They do business cards, they do brochures, they do pretty much everything. It's a huge, long-running family business. And yeah, I really want to support that. So if it does get printed offset, I'll be using a local German company. Yeah, yep. I'll have to do conventions then. Shucks. Yeah, so that's the idea with doing offset printing. I would only do offset printing if I do a Kickstarter or something similar for Pitchfork, and I would have a tier for, you know, a premium version of Pitchfork in an offset book, and people would order that after they'd paid for it. I would have a very clear number of the numbers I'd need, and then I'd add another 15-20% on top of that. So I would have a few left over, but the idea is that it would mostly be paid for through pre-orders. So anyway, let's get started. A5. We want the pages to be facing each other. That means they're going to be displayed on the screen as a spread. Horizontally is fine. Start on the right. That's right. So that means the start page is going to be page 1 is going to be on the right-hand side. Doesn't really matter there too much. Color format RGB versus Cmyk. Basically, RGB is... I'll just bring up the little article on this, but one of them is for viewing on screens, and one of them is for printing. And it's not going to matter so much because this is mainly going to be black and white. But basically, Cmyk refers to mixing of inks. So if you've had like one of these, if you've ever had a color printer, a lot of color printers have a cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So they have the 3 colors and a black cartridge. And that's the inks being mixed together to print. That's Cmyk. So when you're generally thinking about printing, you want to be thinking about Cmyk. However, this product, initially, what I'm doing now, I'm creating a playtest document, and this is going to be like the beta that would be going out when I would go to, you know, if I was going to do a Kickstarter, then this would turn into like the beta quick start type document, which I would be digitally distributing to people, not intended to be printed. I'm also not planning for the interior to be color. However, the cover will be in cover, so that's a consideration to keep in mind. However, because it's going to be mainly used on people's digital devices, I want to keep RGB as the profile for this document. If I was creating this to be printed, either print on demand or offset print, I would definitely be wanting to choose Cmyk as my color format. So, anyway. So, margins. I can play around with margins later. Bleed... I'll put a little bit of bleed in there so I can talk around it. I'm not going to really use it, so put 3mm of bleed in. We'll keep the margins as they are for now, although we want the inner margin to be a little bit bigger. So we're going to make that about, let's make that 30mm. We'll make the outer one 20, 20, and 30 at the bottom. Create. So, here we are. The margins are way too big. First thing I'm noticing. That's fine, I can change them. So on the left here, you can see I've got these pages. I inserted 33 pages. So I have page 1 is my cover page. And all the other ones are, if I click on one of these, and there you can see I have my 2-page spread. So if I'm going to be putting any artwork on here or anything like that, I can basically paste it on the 2 pages together. It's treating them as like a single piece of paper. But it does... I can export it as a PDF where it will cut it down the middle on that line in the middle, and it will have it as different pages. So I can see the whole thing laid out as spreads, but I also can export it as a PDF in single-page format, which is nice. This is all standard stuff. InDesign does exactly the same thing. Before we get going too much further, the first thing to focus on is the master. And a master is basically a 2-page spread. And I can create as many masters as I want. So for master A, we're going to call this intro master. Then we're going to create another one, which is this button right here. And we're going to call this one village creation. In fact, I'm just going to leave the term master out of it. The margins are way too big. Let's try... I'll do that in a second. Hold on. Let's try, the inner is way too big. We'll try 20 for the inner, and I'm just going to have all these other ones. I'll keep the bottom at 20 maybe too. Facing, good. Everything should be the same. Yeah, that's also not very good. So you can see here, if I just bring this down a little bit, I can shrink the pages page. You can see I have two master documents here. I can rename them, I can delete them, I can clear them. I can do whatever I want with them. So first of all, I'm going to... God, how do I change the name? F2? There we go. So intro. Village creation. In fact, let me just... I want to go to document setup. I'm happy with the bleed, actually. So document setup is where you look at things like... you can change the document units, the DPI, how many dots per inch it is, which affects the overall file size too. You can change the color format to Cmyk or RGB or whatever. And layout, I can change it from being facing pages to... So if I take that off, for example, it becomes one page. But I don't want to do that, so I want to keep that as facing pages. But spread setups... Oh, God. What did I do? What did I do? No! Shit. Alright, just delete all these. Yeah, no problem. I don't know why I've done that. That's kind of annoying. So yeah. Okay. Document setup, facing pages, etc. Okay, so that's spread setup. This is where I want to change the margins. We're going to go with inner, I want to be 20. Outer, I want it to be 10. Top, I want to be 10. And the bottom, I want to be 20. Okay. I'm going to hit OK on that. Yeah, that's better. So the one on the left, this is the kind of inner margin, which is basically here. And the reason you want it a bit wider is, yeah, because if you've got lots of pages, you're not going to be able necessarily to open the book all the way open, and you'll lose some of the text if it's too close to the middle. So I'm going to create a new master. I'm going to call this intro, and facing margins, it's fine. So this should be fine. And there we go. I've got it back to my double page spread. Although it's it doesn't look like I've got a 20 millimeter. It looks like it's really messing up the margins there. It has. It's moved the 20 to the top for some bizarre reason. Okay. Cool. Right, so intro is going to look like that. The next one I'm going to do is going to be the village creation. And I'm going to, hopefully, it's keeping the same values. It hasn't. This is really annoying, actually. I don't know why it's doing that. It's working now, though. Okay. And the one after that I'm going to do is... is going to be your character. Commoner. And that one's no, that one's also not fine. So it's doing this weird thing with it. Anyway, that's I guess a bug I'm gonna have to report to the people who make the software. Show them the video, in fact. Okay, that's enough to get started with. So, here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be thinking of this as like separate sections of the book. For the intro section, in fact, for all of these, it's going to be more or less the same. But the first thing I want to look at is I want to create a space here for the kind of the title. And I'm going to be having a title roughly on every page, right? So thinking about fonts and things like that, I'm just going to put in here, we're going to put some text in here. I'm going to play around with how big it is. So I want the text, I'm going to use a font called Duke Plus, which is from a German graphic designer. And I can't remember her name at the moment, unfortunately. We'll go with 36 point. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. Then we come down here. Spacing, paragraph spacing. I don't want it right next to the edge like that. Well, maybe I do. If I want to bring it down a little bit, I can just not doing anything. Yeah. That's because I need to have a space before it. So it says use this space only between paragraphs. If I change that to always, then do that, then it should move it down. As you can see, it's doing that right now. Okay, so if I put like 6 point in, it shifts it across a little bit. I want to have it indented from the left as well, so just do... Nah, that's probably a little bit too much. bearing in mind, if I click here, view preview mode, you're not going to see any of those lines. It doesn't really matter too much. However, once I start putting in the text elements here, like that, for example, and then you start typing in here, it's kind of worth thinking about how that header is going to look lined up with the text below it in preview mode, right? So you can see that there's a little gap there. So it just depends kind of what you're going for, really. So yeah, anyway, that's why I'm doing that. I'm actually going to take this down like that. I just want it down slightly. The other reason I'm taking it down slightly is because I might have some page border art going around here, and I don't want it too close to this. I'm gonna use these guides, these blue lines, as guides for where I want that artwork to go. Yeah. Cool. All right. So for this text, I'm gonna be using the one I usually use, the same one I've used actually for Year Zero Mini, which is Crimson Text. Crimson Text is really easy to read. It's a serif font, which means it's got the kind of fancy styling, and it's easy to use. It's a Google font, which means it's free to use. It'll display perfectly, like with embedding and stuff. It's not going to be a big issue. The Duca Plus that I'm using here, the Duke Plus, as it looks like, is not a font that people would have installed on their machine, unless you're Johan Noor from Merkborg, because he has like thousands of fonts. So he might have it, but most people wouldn't have it. However, with the way it works with PDFs is it will embed fonts into the thing, which is why you're able to get a PDF of Merkborg, open it up, and it will look exactly like the physical product in terms of like which fonts are being displayed. You don't have to have these fonts installed on your machine for them to turn up correctly on the PDF. And that's because PDF, basically desktop publishers embed the fonts into the PDF. So yeah, I can use it and not really worry about that. Okay, so I've got that written there like this, but I'm gonna delete that because this is a master copy. If I was to keep that in there and say test, and then come down here to my pages, if I say, okay, I want to use on my first 8 pages here, my first 4 spreads, I can right click and I can say apply master. I'm gonna choose my master, I'm gonna choose intro, I'm gonna hit OK. And you'll be able to see here, they all say test on them. I can highlight it, I can delete it as well. I thought I wouldn't be able to delete it, but I can. It's because I've got a layer here, which is my master, and it's showing all those elements of it. With the testing, it's automatically put there on every page. Now, of course, as you can see, I can tweak that and remove it, but you want to keep that at the master level. So if I come up here to my master and I delete the text there, that's gone. It's not going to show up on those pages. However, if I want to put something in there, if I want to put the title in there, so for example, introduction, it's keeping all of the formatting, the font style that I've selected, and it's keeping it right in that spot. So I can type on page 4 here, introduction, and it's not being used on any of the other pages that have that master applied. That's how masters work. Okay, so you basically set it up, that you set the master up with how the styling that you want, but you don't actually put the content in that. So testing was just to see what it looked like. I'm going to go back here to paragraph, and I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to probably, yeah, I think that looked all right actually. Let's use some preview mode again. Yeah, that's fine. That looks absolutely fine. And just to test it with like let's test it with a letter that drops like a P. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so there's no need to kind of fiddle around with that. Oop, pages, master pages up here. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm doing. The second thing I'm doing in preview mode here. Let me just take that off. I want to duplicate this. I want to have this this kind of header thing on both pages. So I've done a copy paste, dragging it over, and it's going to be exactly the same. So if I type in here introduction, it's got exactly the same sort of qualities that I had before. However, I might want this on closer to the edge of the outer edge of the page. So on this side, I'm going to change my my justification to, I'm going to change my alignment to be on the right rather than on the left. So if I was going to do an introduction page, if I was going to do like a forward, at the beginning of the book, followed by an introduction, it would look like that. If I take this off and click, don't have anything selected, it's gonna look like that, and that looks quite nice, I think. You know, you open it up, and it's got you're kind of seeing the kind of what's on the page. What is this? You know, the description of what's on the page is kind of complementing each other on different sides, and I think that looks nice. I could change it later if I want, but I want to try and keep something consistent here. I don't want to try and do a different spread on every page. I might be doing something a little bit more crazy when I'm actually designing the final product. But again, this is intended to be something to hand out as a quick start sort of document for people to use. So I want it to look good, but not too, not too fancy. It needs to be simple. It needs to be all in black and white with the ability to switch off any artwork. So if people want to print it off, it's not going to destroy their ink budget. And it needs to be legible, and that's basically it. So you may have noticed I have a text box here for typing in blocks of text. So if this is where I'm putting all my rules and stuff and putting bullets, you might be wondering why I don't have this like full width. Now, the reason for that is I did have a little think about this. There are some games that have that do something similar. They basically will usually have text close-ish to the center of the spread, the center of the middle of the book, and they leave a space on the towards the outer side for basically like call-out boxes or something like that. Now, there are two ways to handle this. I can actually just keep it the width I want, and if I have a call-out box, I can literally just stick a call-out box in anywhere I want, like as a new text box, like this. I can put a border behind it, I can do whatever I want to it, and if I right-click on it, it's easier when I've actually got the content in it. I can basically, there's all sorts of stuff I can do with this, but in fact what I want is up here, and what I want to do up here is I want to say text wrapping settings, and I can say, okay, with this text box, the wrap style is going to be squared, okay, with 1 millimeter. That's, I don't know why I'm saying 1.1. That's very weird. 1 millimeter distance from the text. So in here, if I start typing a bunch of random shit like this, okay, and then I come up here and I'm typing, look what's happening. It's going around my text box. So it doesn't actually matter too much to make, I don't need to make the space for call-out boxes. I can play around with that by keeping things as they are. However, the thing I do want to think about is how much width I want on the page. And this is where you start looking at other books in similar formats and looking at how they've done it and thinking about what looks good. If we look at Mothership, which is a very similar format to what I'm using now, Mothership uses a 2-column spread on every page. And basically because of the font size and how close, look at how close they're going to the margins. It's kind of extreme, right? There's barely any margin on this thing. Also in the center, the text boxes are very, very close to the center. But that's kind of okay because the total page count for this is like 40 pages. So you can open it right up. In fact, if I was to take, it's stapled together, so if I was to take these staples out, I would just have loose pieces of paper floating around. Like, there's no glued binding in here, nothing like that. I don't know what my page count is going to be, so I could definitely come back if I wanted to do something like this. I could do that. And in fact, for the start of this, I'm going to go with a 2-column spread. And the reason for that is that I'm basically wanting to show, part of that is I want to show how this works, and also the other part is I want to try and, I think it works well generally for legibility and reading things when you've got 2 columns. Also, A5 isn't so big when you're reading it on a device. That's the other thing to consider, actually. Multiple columns aren't as easy to read on a device. If you have to zoom in to read the text, then you're basically kind of scrolling down, and then you're scrolling up and over to the right and down again, and then over to the left for the next page. And it's generally not considered to be the best way of doing it. It's probably a consideration I want to keep in mind. So for this one, I think I'm going to. God, what am I going to do? Any suggestions in the chat Should I go 2 column or should I go for single column and make it not as wide? This is too wide for single column. I'll tell you what. I'll leave the master as a single column, and I can change it in the individual thing. So here, for example, I've got this single one here. I'm pretty sure I can just select it under layers. That one, and I think. Ooh, I can delete it, but can I not? Nope. Okay, I can't actually move it, which is interesting. So I can't modify it within the master. All I can do is I can delete elements of it. So I can hit delete. I can't delete it. How did I delete it before? Ah, I might have been in the master before. So yeah, can't delete, you can't move, you can't manipulate anything like that. Single column for readability. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna make the margins a little bit different here. I'm gonna make the outer margins a bit bigger. 20. I'll make everything 20. Yeah, I want to put quite a bit of yeah, A5 2 columns. That's basically mothership, right? A5 2 columns. You need to basically eat up all of your margins for it to kind of work. Otherwise, you're only getting like 5 or 6 words on a line, which isn't really enough. Okay, so I've increased my margin sizes. Now I just have to make my text boxes fit in with that, which is doing that and doing that. And then this one here, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it here. Now here's the cool thing. We've got these little arrows here. If I click that, whoops, and then click here, it has a line, and I'm going to start. I'll be pasting text in a second, so don't worry about that. And then I'm going to copy all this and paste it in here. There we go, and I'll paste it in here as well. So we have the same layout for all 3 of these, and the reason I have different ones is because if I want to change, if I want to subtly change something with like village creation, and have a different border going around the outside, I need to do it to the master, and that's something I'm actually thinking about doing, is having a different page art per section of the book. Okay, so let's close the masters. That's good enough for now. We're going to start with the intro bits. So the first page, usually what I would do here is I'm just going to right click on here. I'm going to clear the master. None. No master. And hopefully get rid of the margins as well. I don't need the margins because this is my cover page. Okay. So what I want to do is first thing, I'm kind of doing like my outline like I did before, and I want to start thinking about how I want to lay out my game. And I actually have done a little bit of work on this earlier today when I had the idea to do this. So after my cover page, I'm going to do like a credits page. The S is pretty funky. Very, very old school. So I might not be using that font. Contents. So I'm going to have my credits on one side. I'm going to have my contents on the other side. Then we're going to have an image at the top with a forward underneath it. So for this, I'm actually going to open my master page. I'm going to copy this thing here. Then I'm going to go back to page 4, paste it in, and I'm going to put it somewhere like... Okay, so this is one of the really cool things about desktop publishing software. Look at these red lines. This is showing me where the center of my... the edges and the center of my current text box are. And the horizontal line is showing me where the center of the page is. So what I want is I want to kind of split the page in half. And I want to keep the top half here. I'm going to actually put something in here. So I'm going to put a little gray box in here. It is gray already, it looks like. Swatches. Make it like that. That's going to be artwork. So I want a bit of art at the top. Then I want to have here a forward. Then on the next page, I'm going to have my intro. Then, next page, I'm going to have, this is going to be village creation. And for this, I might see if I don't think I can move these. No, I can't move them. So for this one, I might actually put some kind of really interesting artwork in here, or some more interesting, look at this. That's what I'm trying to think about. That will go with village. I'm going to have to do this on 2 separate pages. So we'll do it like this. And we're going to call this, we'll go with a Duke Plus again. I'm just going to say it like an English-speaking person. So 96, and then it goes up to 144. I want somewhere in between that. So the way I can actually, I'm pretty sure there was a way to do this. I'm not going to try and faff around trying to figure it out. If I go like 120, yeah, that's what I want. So village, and the other side, directly opposite it, but changing the alignment to the right. I'm going to put here creation. It won't fit. The N is actually in there, but it's on the next line down. So if I was to drag that down, you'd be able to see an N pop in, right? So that's too big. I'm going to just slowly take this down until it fits. Just try 100. Works with 100. About 110. 100 should be fine. I don't want too much bigger than that. Okay. And then again, it should snap to this line here when I resize it. Boom. See, it kind of goes red. So again, really easy to make these things line up. This one again, I'm going to change this down to 100 so it matches. Okay, and there we have the kind of village creation. Now, one thing I could do here to make it like look a bit better with how it's lined up is I could say I want them to be based on the center here, this one and this one, like that, right? And then I basically increase the indentation from either side, so it's something like 10 millimeters away, right? Same with this one, increase the indentation from the other side, 10 millimeters away. The problem with that is I have a bigger gap on next to village because the words aren't the same size. But it's a way to kind of, you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to, have it kind of looking like a single spread. The problem with that is if you're looking at a PDF, you're going to see village, and then the next page you're going to see creation. It's going to be a bit, it's not going to look that great. So this is something you definitely could do for a spread, like a printed product, but doesn't necessarily work out so well in PDF. Oh boy, chat's been busy. So Cmyk does not have a layout. Cmyk is every page is a different layout. Like literally. Here we have two column spread. Two column spread. Two column spread. Single column spread here, although it's like a kind of like a chapter start. I guess it is 2 column spread. Single column spread within the artwork. Single column spread arguably around the artwork. Single, I mean, like the monsters are all kind of single. Here's single spread across the width. But more or less, it is 2 column spread. Here it's single column spread. So it's completely mixed. Single column spread, although, yeah, it's not really 2 column that's just got art around it. It's been squeezed around to fit in with things. So it's kind of all over the place. Hypertellurians is bigger than A5. It's digest sized. And that's 2 column spread. But it's bigger than A5. If you want to have 2 column spread, you either have to do what Mothership is doing, which is have no margins, and then you have to keep the page count down so you can actually make it work, or you go with a bigger page format. Okay, then I want to have an image. So I'm going to do village creation here, right? So for this one, it's going to be village creation. What am I going to call this? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll call it 1 and 2 for now. And one thing I wanted to do here is I wanted to have artwork. So again, up to the halfway up the page, and I've got the red line, and then I just want to drag that over. So I want to actually put some artwork. I want to commission some artwork to spread across the 2 pages here. And then underneath, if I double click in here, I want to have the introduction and over here. I can't click on it because these are connected. This is one text box. I've linked them together. So I actually have to hit like enter, or I can put in a page break or a column break. So if I go over to text, insert, breaks, page break, and then I should pop over there. There we go. Steps. Now here's the other thing. This crimson text doesn't have a style attached to it, right? I'm going to be playing around with this later, but I actually want to assign this a style. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to text, and I'm going to go to text styles, and I'm going to say, I don't want to create a new one. It's this one here, sorry. I'm going to go with body. I want this to be my body. So I've clicked body. I'm going to then change it from Arial, which it defaulted to crimson text again. It's in 12 point. 12 point should be plenty big enough to read. I might actually make that more like 11 to start off with. We'll go with 11 to start off with, because I think that's what I use in User Mini, and it's legible enough when it's printed out. And then I'm going to go, that's it for now. I'm going to leave that like that, and then I'm going to go up here to text. I'm going to go to text styles. I'm going to update the paragraph style. I've assigned it to be body, and now I want to update it. It's got it says body plus here, right? That's because the plus is saying I've changed it. It's body, but I've made a change. So if I hit update paragraph style, it saved it. And look over here. This is now... Oh, so I have to assign it to be body. So if I go body there, then it's changed. In fact, I have to do that to my master. This has no style attached. So I'm going to say this is the body. And then it will be saved. So if I come to any of these other pages here, let's jump down to page 8 and 9 and start typing. You can see already it's crimson text 11 point. So it's saved the settings there because it's got the body format here. Okay, perfect. But I don't want body. I actually want a header here, and I haven't started looking at headers and what I want to use here. So for now, I'm going to stick with. I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to say I want this to be a header. I don't want the header to look like that. This is when you're setting it up. This is kind of what you need. I don't want it centered. I want it off to the left. So first we're going to stick it over to the left like that. Then I'm going to come back over here to the font, and I'm going to say let's use Dominican, which is the Wulfric, the standard Wulfric font. Yep, introduction. And then 20 seems okay to me. That seems like I can play around with this as much as I like. The main thing is that I've got this selected as heading 1, and then I'm going to update that text style. Okay, so now I just come over here and say, okay, steps, this is a header. It's heading 1, and boom, it's Dominican exactly as I set up. So that's saving it for the entire document, not just the master page, right? So I've now assigned to this document, I've assigned heading 1 to be Dominican 20 point. Not underlined. I can't do bold or italics with this font, so it's just as it is, as it comes. The great thing is after I hit enter or return on the keyboard, it should jump from heading 1 to body text. As you can see, this just changed from heading to body 1. I don't have to change anything manually. That just happens normally because that's what normally happens. You have a header, and when you hit enter, you're usually typing the text of the body after it. So if I start typing here after the introduction, boom, I'm straight into crimson text 11 point. And this is where I'm going to start pasting stuff in. So let me pull up my introduction to the game. In fact, I'm going to go back, see where I'm starting from. I'm at village creation already. So let's go back here to the forward. The forward for now, I'm just going to start pasting some stuff in here. I'll put my design goals in. So I'll just copy this like this. Pop it in. Let's put it in. Right. So remember, this is a master page, right? This big square here is my text box. So it's hidden behind this gray box. If I was to move that, there's my text. I don't want that. I want it below forward, right? So the way to get rid of that is I put a new text box in, specifically for this layout. Like that. And then I'm connecting it. Click in there, And then clicking here again, like that. So they're connected. It doesn't matter this one is also connected to the previous one because I'm not going to be putting anything in that previous one. So I'm going to select all that now. I'm going to paste it in here instead. Okay. Right. Design goals. I want this to be a header. So I select it. Come over here. Heading 1. And there we go. Design goals. Bloody, 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 blah. This is all bulleted. And you see it's actually pushed it, the next one, over to the next page. So this is where you're seeing it's... I've set it up so that it's flowing from one page to the next. And in fact, I could also set this one up to run from from page 4 here to this one here. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep myself restrained to keeping all my text on the pages I've assigned to them. So this is where it kind of starts getting a bit interesting. So we're going to select this. I'm going to change it to bullet 1. And the first thing you notice is it's completely buggered up at my font and everything. But that's fine because bullet 1 is another style that I haven't actually assigned yet, a text style. So that's fine. Just come here, crimson text. 11 point is what I want. I don't want these spaces after the paragraph. So I'm going to reduce it down to like... I do want a little space, but not too much. Like that. And then I don't want these bullets. The bullets look like shit, so we're going to get rid of the bullets. Come down here to bullets and numbering, and it says here, type bullet. That's fine. It's bullets or numbers or like lists, letters, whatever. And I can change what it looks like here. So I'm going to click here on text. Nope, I'm not going to click on text. I'm going to click here on more. When it comes to more, I've got this option to look up any of the fonts I've got installed on my computer. That's awesome. That means I can put in any font character installed on my machine. I can turn that into a bullet. Now, the reason I say that's awesome is because you can actually make your own fonts for free. So you can actually get an art asset that looks really funky, and you can scan it into, or like if it's already digital, you can create it as like a letter in a font, even if it's just one letter. Save the font, install the font to your computer, and then it's available as a font. You come in here, you basically select and say, okay, I'm going to look up blah, 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 blah. Now, I already have one on here, which is called Norse. It is the Eldar Futhark alphabet from... that was used in... oh, it's gone. That's because I did a full computer reinstall the other day, and it's now gone. Shit. Anyway, I had basically some Futhark runes, and they had some very awesome... they made for some very awesome bullets, but I don't have them anymore, unfortunately. So I mean, look here. I've got a dagger. I can click on that, and put the dagger in here. That's because I have a dot here. I've got a dot, then I've got a space, and then I've got the dagger. Right. So let's move this space to the other side of the dagger, and let's get rid of the dot. Boom! Look at that. I have a dagger as a bullet. I also want to say how far I want the tab stop to be. This is how far away from the bullet it is. I can change it to whatever I want. I want it actually a bit closer. So we're going to go with 4 millimeters. And I think that's probably okay. I wonder if I can name it. I haven't tried that before, actually. That's good enough for now. Okay, and then I also want to think about how far away it is. So I actually want it to be... there we go. I don't want it lined up with the other text. I'm going to move it 2 millimeters away from the side of the text box. And I'm going to move the text within it. What the hell is going on there? It's connecting the two. Right. Okay, that's definitely not what I want. I want 6 and 2. No, I don't. What on earth is going on? I could use a pitchfork. That would be pretty cool. I gotta figure out what I'm doing here. The tab stop. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. So I want my tab stop to be 6 millimeters. Whoops. That's fine. Okay, tab stop is 6 millimeters, and the gap is 2 millimeters. Okay, so this is exactly what I want. 6 and 2. I don't know why this is saying... I'm not going to touch it anymore. This is exactly what I want here, so I'm going to just select it like that. It's got bullet 1 here. And then I go up here, and hopefully what you should see is these bullets above it should change to match it with having the same... having the dagger, and the dagger should move over if I've done this correctly. Right? So text style, I'm going to update it, and boom. There they all are. Cool, huh? So now anytime I want to put a bulleted list in here, I have, if I choose bullet 1, I'm going to get this exact layout here. With that gap between the paragraphs, which is 4 millimeters, I think I put in there. Spacing, yeah, 4 millimeters, or 4 points. I can reduce that to 2 if I wanted. I can make it a bit more compressed. And if I wanted to have a different looking bulleted list, that's fine. I can change this bullet to something else, a pitchfork, for example, or whatever I want. And then I would just, I would have it as one of these other bullets. And if I ran out and I wanted more than 3 bullet styles, which I would never do, I could go here and say new style, and I could just call it bullet 4. Bullet 4 comes up straight away. It's based on bullet 1, so it's copying all of the settings from bullet 1. And then it says here, the interesting thing, next style. That means when you hit enter and you're moving out of bullet 1, what comes up next? And that's normally where you choose, like, you want the body next normally after that, or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to hit cancel here. It doesn't really matter. That's the main thing. So it's years engine, but smaller dice pools, blah, 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 blah. Now, these two here were indented even more. So if I hit, I can't actually, for these, put the, or can I? I can. Okay, I can push these in. And I think I can set for this as well a different text. So for here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to scroll down to, I've completely forgotten which font I used here. It was... I was looking for Norse, so it was around N, wasn't it? Old English text, that one. There's the dagger. What have we got here? We've got a double dagger. Why the hell not? Let's use a double dagger. And we're going to move it to be on the other side of the tab stop. I don't like it. It doesn't look good, but for now, it's suiting its purpose. So, that's fine. So I'm going to highlight that like this. And then I'm going to say, it's saying bullet 2. Oh, so 2 is actually the second level indent. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I want the tab stop to be 6 like it was before. And I want this one to be, it's saying 12. Let's make it 12 and 6, nice and even. Cool. Yeah, good. I'm going to then go to text styles, update the style. And this one automatically changed to match it. Okay. Again, I can change this later if I want. I probably will because I don't like the double dagger, how that looks. Let's just zoom in here. It's kind of cool, but I am going to change it. Because there's probably there's probably just the like the sort of pointy cross without. There isn't. That's disappointing. General punctuation. Let's do all. Ah, okay. Here we go. Okay. There's some cool looking stuff in there. It's probably on the plus, I would imagine. God, it's really hard to see that. There's my glyph of the dagger. So Attila, if you can draw me a really small fontish pitchfork, I'll happily throw it in there. I can't do it myself, so I'm sticking with what I can do. That's the life of a non-artist. Okay, I'm not gonna faff around with it. It's fine. That'll be fine. I'll play around with that later offline. Okay, so I've pasted that in there. That's how it looks. I haven't gotten. I can't go to the introduction yet because I haven't put a page break in. So if I hit enter, enter again. Now it's still keeping me on bullet 1, and I want it to be actually carrying me over to body. So what I want to do here is I want to go to my text style. I want to. I'm not sure actually where I set that. Doesn't matter. So I'm just going to enter twice, change it to body, which is what I want, and then I'm going to go to text, insert, page break. And here I am at the introduction. So then I come over to the introduction from my document. I'm actually not going to do the rules overview here. I've actually got some place where I want to put that. Hit paste. There it goes. Cool. Now there's a lot of empty space around here. That's fine. I don't really need to worry about that right now. I'm going to go next now to village creation. I've already got the next bit ready here where it says body under the header there for introduction. So again, I'm just going to start pasting stuff in here, which is this, your village. That's the introduction bit. Okay. Then I have under steps, I have the steps required. This is not going to fit in that box. I'm going to have to play around with this a little bit. So let us move this to the back. Move to the back. There we go. I can see the text in front of it now. Create the map. Create the community. These are the 4 steps required. So I want these to be a numbered thing here. Okay. So again, I go to numbered 1. I change it again to crimson text 11 point. I reduce the gap to 4 points between. So it looks basically exactly like the other one looked. And then I also want to change the tab stop to be 6. And I think I put here it was 6 and 2. Nothing's moving. That's not good. Or was it 6 there and 2 here? What? I don't know. Yep. So this is saying first line indent. I'm on the first line, so I wonder if that changes anything. It shouldn't, because this is Yeah, it's doing some weird stuff there. I don't know what's going on. No, that's the leading, that's the space above it, which is fine. Yeah, Attila, that's a good question. I might actually continue carrying on in here. It depends. I don't know yet. The idea here is to do it, is to do an outline with how I want it laid out, and then I might just continue writing in here. Fuck's sake. Alright, I don't want to be faffing around with this too much longer. So I don't know why it's doing this, why it's not changing, but I'm just gonna move on. So text style, update it. Okay, and there we have the 6 and 2. I mean, yeah, this is very weird that it's like up to. So if I take this all the way off to 0 and I start doing it, then nothing's happening until I get to 3. There's a little movement on 3, right? And then it goes up. So I think 5 is probably the right number. And I don't know why this is just jumping out like that. So I'm gonna have to look into this and see why it's doing what it's doing. It's not actually making me into a very happy boy right now. So, whatever. Alright, text styles, update. There we go. Okay. So these are the steps involved with character creation, right? move on. After village creation, we're going to do the village map. So here, I'm actually going to put a text frame here. I got this in the wrong place. Center vertically, center it horizontally, and we're going to put here village map example village map. And we're going to change this to Dominican. Like that. In fact, let's just call it bullet. Let's call it header 1. Center it. There we go. I'm going to make the background for this text box. I think I have to click here, so I'm a selecting thing. And I think here I do... Nope. I've done this before. I'm trying to remember how I did it. Do I right click? I basically want to make this into a color. There's an easy way to do this. I think I click here maybe. Fill. Swatches. Gray? Nope, I'm on the wrong thing. This is the text it's filling in. So undo that. Let's go back here. Sure, there's an option here somewhere. Doesn't really matter too much. This is the black. This is the black text. Anyway, whatever. All good. There is a way, I have done it before, I just can't remember, it was a while ago, where you can create a text box like this, a text frame. But the other thing to do is I can just create a rectangle like this. For example, go over to layers. I stick the text above it like that, and then if I do shift or control and click on both of them together, I can then group them together, and voila, I have a single. Well, basically, what I was trying to get. Now, this doesn't actually belong here. This belongs on the next page. So I wanted this here. And I wanted this to be like this. Okay. So the idea is I'm going to hand draw an example village map using the steps that I've created in the book. Those things I did in the last character creation, the last dev diary. And I'm actually going to scan it. I'm going to put it in here, label it up, etc. So that'll be an example. Okay, anyway, so village creation 1. Here we've got the village map. And over here, map tables. Okay, and for this one, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So for this one, I'm going to say step 1 is creating the map. So all this, selecting, pasting in here, but oh man, that is not coming up well. So for this, I want to change my paragraph to have no spaces after it, so I can kind of see everything. All right, all of this stuff I want to get rid of. This table information. Okay, this is table information. Households, table information. And the reason I'm deleting all this is because I'm going to put all the tables on the right-hand side. I'm going to have the steps on the left. So you open it, you've got the steps, here's what you do, and on the right-hand side, you have the tables. So it's like, okay, the first one, come up with a name or roll a name for the village. You look over to the right, the first table on the right is going to be the name generating table. Yeah. That's the idea. So we're almost there. All right, doesn't fit on one page. Look at that. So that's because I got these gaps in. Oop. Oh, no, I don't. Okay. So I'm going to select all this. I'm going to change the gaps to be 4 or 6, maybe. 6 works quite well, I think. I'm going to actually update it because I don't want 12. I don't want a space of 12 points between my paragraphs. It's too much. 6 is usually what I use, I think. So update paragraph style for everything. So the gaps here kind of would have gotten smaller just now. Anyway. All right. Nearly there. Here are the steps. So here are the steps required to make the thing. So I want this actually to be numbered. I'm not sure that's something I want to do, though. So I go numbered. Okay, here we go. This is where this is coming into play. First line is this one here where it says location. The next line is the 4 millimeters. Now, the reason why it's acting up is because the number is further over. It's pushing on that L. So this needs to be something like, say, 8. And if I come down here to the bullets, I want to make this 4. And I don't want this not coming back in. That is super frustrating. God damn it, that is really, really frustrating. That is super frustrating. Oh my god. I want it to be a nice line. I want it to line up. But I want the tab stop for this thing. So when does it start getting affected? Ah, okay. I think I've got it now. Tab stop of 8. Let's move this back. Move this to 8. What the hell? That is really janky. That should not be doing that. And did I use on user a minute? I used numbers. I'm not sure they went. Look at this. This is exactly what I want. It's not on the line. It's bumped over from the line. I remember fiddling around with this to get it the way I wanted it to look, and it was pretty easy to do. It's all lined up here on the same distance away from the number. And I can't do it right now. And I was using Affinity Publisher, so there might be like a bug, potentially. Either that or... I mean, the other thing I could do quickly is I could open up my role-playing, and it'll be Zeros Mini. Right, what have I got here? Numbered 1. 6, 4, 6. Why the hell is that working? Let's do this. Select the whole thing. Six, I want there. 6, 4. Fucking hell, it worked. I don't know why that one's not. That one's not working. That one is not working, but everything else is working. Tab stop 8. That's why. Okay, it's working. I have no idea what I just changed there, but whatever. So it looks like the tab stop is for the text. So you want to maybe you have to highlight the whole example that you're using here. So if I highlight the whole thing and say I wanted a little bit further over than 6, I could go here with 8. It's pushing it over. I then also want to keep this to be 8. Yeah, and this can be whatever I want, and that's then moving just that. Okay, that's exactly what I don't know why it wasn't doing that earlier. That's just stupid. 6 and 2 I had here. I kind of like it a bit more heavily. I will faff on that later. Doesn't matter. Okay. So the main thing here is that when you get to the double digits, it lines it up with the right-hand side, so you need to have enough space here, otherwise it starts bumping in. So this actually looks quite good with the 8 and the 6. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to just go somewhere in there. I'm going to save numbered 1 to be my text style. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, here it is. I've got my steps, my numbers of steps. I'm not sure these are quite correct. I should have 7 steps with... Okay, so I need to do some indenting in here. Location, I've removed that. I've removed that, removed that. Resources, oddity, I've removed that. So from 7 is when I got the details. And 7's details, and then these are all sub-bits within it. So I'm going to do tab. Oh, no, 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 no. There we go. There we go. All right. And we want you to be tab stopped. There we go. Now we're talking. All right. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. Almost. There we go. All right. So I'm going to do this as this should be is now numbered 2, level 2. So I'm going to just highlight that. Text, text style, update. And then I just need to select these and say these are numbered 2. Boom. There they go. All right. I'm not doing examples. So I only need to shave off a single line to get this back in here. And this is where when you're doing it, working with the layout, you can start doing some like minor edits to make it fit. Look here with manner. I've got 2 words here, which is pushing it a line down, and I just need to save a line here. So if I could just reword this slightly, I can shave that back. There's something else I'm doing here, which probably nobody will know about unless you've done something similar before. And that is about the justification I've got here. We talk about justification. If I do justified, like this, justified makes it so that you always end on the end of a word. Or it always ends on the line. It's not like it's not like jagged, like as the text is flowing. And if you look at, I didn't do it here. I was sure I did it here. I did it for Nord Saga. If I open up my old Nord Saga example, let me do that very quickly because this is a really cool feature. Nord Saga. Where's my latest? This one? Yeah, look at this. Nice square block of text. Yeah? God, that looks really janky. Doesn't matter. I printed at low resolution to keep the file size down. So anyway, there we go. This was made in Affinity Publisher. But if you look here, look at these hyphens. It's automatically hyphenating words for me while progress on the continent. I'm not doing any of that. It's automatically done, and basically it knows when to put the hyphens in, and I can control when it puts those in. That's really cool because what this actually does is it means it compresses your text much more than if you don't use justified. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So what I want to do here is I actually want to open Nord Saga because my Nord Saga, I got the settings just right for it, in my opinion. I don't want to look for the resource files because there's fonts, this Norse font I was talking about. So if I show you here, look at this cool like Norse font I'm using for the bullets. It's an @ sign, like a Norse font. But I don't have it installed, so it can't find it. Doesn't matter. So all I want to do here is I want to go to the justification settings, and I'm going to copy these over. So I've got 50%, which is the minimum word spacing. 100% is my desired, and 133 is the maximum. So if I come over here, select this, I've got 50, which is much, much less than what I've got here currently. 50%, 100, 133. That's it. I believe there was another option, though. Hyphenation. This is the big one. I want to use auto hyphenation. And then I want to map the settings I put for Nord Saga, because that was... So here, I've got 0, 5, 222, and that was it. So 0, 5, 2, 2, 2. 0, 5, 2, 2, 2. So, done. I'm going to then apply this as a text style. Look here, I've got in combination. It's putting the hyphens in automatically. If I change, now some of these are really badly done. It's saying medieval Europe. Now the reason it's doing that is because I've said here, this 2 is the minimum suffix size. What that's saying is, as long as there are 2 letters there, and it will be able to tell. It has like a it has some sort of algorithm where it can tell where it should and shouldn't be putting hyphens. But 2 is just not like that great. So if I like select this, for example, and I increase that to the minimum suffix of 3, it's not going to be me anymore. It's going to change it to medieval on the next line. Oh, suffix is after prefix. Sorry, there. It's actually pushed the whole thing, compressed it even more together to get the medi on. So it's medieval. I'm not sure that IE should be split like that. But again, I can't really change that without moving it all the way up to the minimum prefix being 5. Now, this is all connected, right? So if I come up here, oops, this was 5, and this was, I think 3 is better. This is saying the minimum word spacing. So if I was to increase this to like 80 like it had it before, or 100, so this right now is, if I was just typing it, if I was typing the font out and it had the spacing between the letters at 100%, the normal of what it should be, it will never compress it more than that. But it will spread it out up to 133% of the spread of the spacing. But if I change this so the minimum is 50 or even less, look, if I put this down to 9%, you can't see the spaces between the words. Pitchfork is a game designed for low fantasy and historical settings. Because I have 9, it's like keeping 9% of that gap between. So it's, you obviously need to have something in between, right? And it's basically, it's because medieval is landing in that space, and it's saying, well, medieval's a word. I'm going to compress it up to whatever it needs to be to get that, to shove that word in there. So anyway, that's why I've got this at 50% with this font. Works quite well in my opinion. So this is kind of the this one here, wrongfully accused of a heinous crime. It is a bit cramped, so I'm actually going to increase that a little bit more till that pops out. I mean, 80. I don't know. We'll stick with 60 for now. See how that works. Still pretty cramped, but anyway, so I'm gonna just stick my cursor in there, and then we're gonna update the text style again. Now, the reason I'm spending a lot of time on this, I'm aware of that. But if you look at Nord Saga, what Nord Saga looked like when I finished it, it looked really good. I spent a lot of time trying to get everything layout wise, and then once it was done, I could basically it kind of just wrote itself, and I was writing into Affinity Publisher to get it how I wanted it, sticking photos in here, or sticking images in here. I've got text wrapping around images, etc. Yeah. Anyway, I'm more or less done now, I think, with that. So I wanted to have that as a setting here, and for this section here, I want to do the same things. So for numbering, I actually also want to have justified text. So I come here and I say, I want to justify it to the left. We want to keep this to 50. And I want to use auto hyphenation 5 to 2. Okay. I'm not sure it's actually saved us anything, but yeah. So if I right click, I think I can actually, unfortunately I can't update my paragraph. It'd be lovely if I could right click and just update my paragraph style from there, but I can't, so whatever, all good. And then for this one, I'm going to do exactly the same. Oh, it's updated already. So number 2 has already been updated to include this this justify left because it's connected to the first one. So there we go. I have my village map steps here. My village tables I'm going to have to do later. Tables are a little bit fiddly in here, but there is basically like a table. There's a way that you can create tables, which is this bit here, table tool. So you basically just like drag and drop what you want your tables to look like. And then once it's created as like a little spreadsheet type of layout, I can change whatever I want in here. I've got a whole suite of things I can play around with. But it does require a little bit of fiddling to get it exactly right, and I don't really want to do that right now. So yeah, so let's continue with this for a little bit longer. I've got my village map there. The next page then is, how many pages have I got left for village spread on my little map here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 6 more of these. So I've got 1, 2, 3. So these 3 spreads here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to apply my master of intro. No, of village creation. Village creation is what I should be using here. Oh god. These are all using the wrong one. And that's important because forward introduction, village creation. So from here onwards, I want all of these to use the master of village creation. Because basically, if I come back later and I say, okay, I want to have on my master page for village creation, I want to draw on it. What I'm going to draw on it? Hold on. Let's place something on here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, I'm going to do a place image tool. Whoops, I want nothing selected though. So let me just do this first, like that. Okay, so place image tool. I'm going to come over to 9 little bees, assets. These are all free assets which don't require attribution that I've found online, and there's basically just this grunge art. So this is all the artwork I was using in Year Zero Mini. All of these art assets are kind of freely available without attribution required. Although I did give attribution here, where graphic assets are from the website. So I think it's always worth giving a nod to the people who give me all these cool free assets, so other people can use them. But yeah, anyway, so I'm just trying to find like a border, right? Just to show you what I'm talking about. So if I pull up here, click there, right? There we go. I've got a little page border, right? I'm gonna copy it, copy and paste, give it a little rotate, like that. Drop it down here, and hey presto, my village creation has a little. That's what the spread looks like, right? Now if I jump down, then look at this. Starting on page 6 and 7. All of my village creation pages have that automatically applied. Okay, so that's why I want to keep them all lined up. So the idea is you work with your masters. You want to keep things looking kind of similar. If I then say for my intro, I actually also want to have something, but I want it to be a bit different. I want to have this, for example. My god, it's too tiny. That's what she said, right? Bigger? Here we go. It's almost perfect. Look at that. Okay, so drop that in there. I don't actually like this. I wouldn't be using this normally. But just as an example, look at this down here, my actual pages. Because this is my intro master, and I've applied the intro master to these pages, straight away I have, it's applied to my credits page, my contents page, my forward, my introduction. Then once I get to my village creation, I've got a different layout being used. That's the point of the masters. I can fiddle around, I can faff around, and it's automatically applied because I've done that kind of that setup at the beginning. Anyway, so yeah. Next steps. I'm actually just gonna quickly type these in, and then I'm gonna talk about something else. So I had a community then. So this was community. What did I put up here? Village map tables. Community. Village community, maybe. Yeah. And community tables. Oops. Yeah, they're grungy, Magnus. The graphics are kind of this grunge style. So I'll actually show the website because it's worth giving it a shout out. Only GFX. And then basically there are like 10,000 free high-quality resources here. And right at the first page, you can click on Grunge, for example. And there's all these different ones. Look, June 26th, so like a week ago, she's still producing these assets. Now, if you go anywhere on this page and you click on about here, right at the bottom, all images are free for both personal and commercial use. Attribution or link back is not required, but much appreciated. More info. Always click on that. Terms of use. And it's basically completely free to use. So you can't claim any of the resources published. So I can't say I created these, right? I can't claim that. So you're prohibited to scrape the content. So scraping is something for website use. Yeah. I'm not allowed to use it as a resource on its own or as a separate attachment of the project, so it has to be like embedded into it. In other words, the resource must be only part of your design project, like a background of a brochure. You're prohibited hot linking. Does this website speak there? So yeah, spam, illegal, immoral design projects. I don't know if she would find a role-playing game immoral, but usually that's there to say like I don't want to find my art used on some sort of like porn, extreme porn site or something. But yeah, basically I can do whatever I want. I can download it. I can resize, rotate, modify, add other elements to it, etc. to suit my needs, and that's important because if you look at Year Zero Mini, this little icon here is the kind of my holding space for my publisher logo, Matt K Games. I created that using her assets and a free font that I'm allowed to use as well with for commercial purposes. So I quite like the look of that. It looks good with my Pitchfork cover, for example, and I was able to use free assets to create it. So just something to be aware of if you're thinking about graphic design, if you're using graphic elements. So like this. Let me show a previous version of this at a higher DPI. So, I drew that. Whoa. That took me ages to make. And I did actually use, I did base it off of an actual, this is an actual carving on an archaeological scabbard or sword or something. I can't remember where I found it. This was going back over a year ago, I think. A while ago anyway. So I kind of like copied it out in blocks like this, and I don't know if you can see this, but then in Photoshop I was kind of sticking them together. So you can see actually this one here and this one here are the same one, just mirrored one behind the other. So there's like 3 of them, I think. Yeah, this one here and this one here are mirrored. But when you look at it like that, it kind of works, right? Unless I've told you the secret, in which case maybe it looks a bit shit. This is another one here. So from this one here, this art asset, I did that one as well. But anyway, and they're mainly placeholders. I wouldn't actually use these. This would be going to an artist eventually to say, I want a border that looks something like this, but I want you to create one from scratch. Not as much detail, because this was a lot of detail. It took too long to make, and when it prints out, you kind of lose a lot of the detail in the lines. It looks good on a screen if you zoom in, but otherwise, it's not really perfect. I don't know why I'm saying all this. Yeah. I've been using Affinity Publisher for a long time. The cool thing about Affinity Publisher is that they have some really good tutorials. So if I go to the website here, Affinity Publisher, in fact, I'll show you how much it costs too. This is the cool thing about it. It's not on sale. It costs 55 euros once. I'm not paying a subscription, nothing. 55 euros, and I have this software to use for life. I'm not sure how it works because it's only been out for a year. I'm not sure whether they're going to change that. It might be a case of like they may change it in the future. If this has happened with other software I've purchased in the past, where it's like they're going to give it like a 2.0, Affinity Publisher 2.0, and from 2.0 you have to purchase a new license. But you can still use your old license for 1.0 or 1.9 or whatever. But we're no longer updating it with patches or anything like that. And that can kind of work. I actually have Photoshop, I have InDesign, but I have CS6. I work in a school, and I purchased, and my wife works in a school as well, and I was able to purchase Creative Suite 6 many years ago when it was still available with an educational license, and I'm allowed to use that. It just never gets updated. So it's a little bit out of date, but it still works. Anyway, so 55 euros is really great, and the tutorials, I watched a lot of tutorials as I was getting used to how it works. Where were they? Would have thought they'd be right there. Here they are. 54 videos, and the cool thing is that a lot of them are like under 5 minutes. And anything that you're trying to think, like, how do I resize something? How do I move something? Just come to the tutorials, and they're really, really good. And I was able to find almost anything I needed to find the tutorials in like 5 minutes of watching a short video, showing me exactly what I need for it. So that's really helpful as well on their website. So it's all done quite professionally. This is a British company as well. So the guy doing it has a really cool, not cool. He's got a British accent, which obviously makes me happy. Anyway. I love this program. It's really good. It's really good for making PDFs. The learning curve was not too bad. I had used InDesign before. It's a little bit different to InDesign, but not too bad. So I already kind of knew some of like how master pages worked. What I was looking for was spreads and stuff. I didn't have to learn it all from scratch, which really did help. Anyway, that's to answer your question, Attila. Okay, so village community table, and the last two sections I had here were... two more sections actually. So I had here rumors and threats. The last page here, I'm going to actually go here. I'm going to copy this, because in addition to coming up with a village map for Pitchfork, you also come up with a community sheet, which basically has NPCs, your rumors, your threats, and that sort of thing. And that is going to go, I'm going to do an example one. Of course, it only copied the... It didn't copy the group, it copied that. So, whatever, it's fine. Alright, and we're going to just do the same thing we did before. Layer it, so one's on top of the other. Group them together. Right, so I have an example community sheet here as well. Cool. Now look at this here. This is going over the artwork. If I wanted to, I could go to my master page and say I want this always over the content. Just double click on it here, right click, and where it says arrange, just say move to front. If I go back then to that page, it's not in front. Typical. It has to do with layering here, right? So I have to stick this on the top like that. So this is, if you ever used a photo program before, that's how layering works. Anyway, just makes me look a bit foolish because it didn't work as I said it would. Anyway, so if you did want it to be on top, then you just have to come to the layers palette panel here, and you just look for the this one here where it says village creation. Village creation is the name of my master here. So I mean, actually, it might be even better to call it village master. And you can see here it's changed to say village master. So when I'm looking at my layers, I know, oh, this is my master. It's spread across 2 pages. Okay, and that's why this is sticking on top of... I don't want that to be on top of the master. I want the master to be on top of that. So I drag that to the top, and therefore, yep, anything else on that page is going to be showing up underneath it, which I probably would do. Okay. Example community sheet, and then the last page I'm actually going to do an image. So I wanted to have a full, kind of a full-size image. So we'll just do that. And in fact, with this this one here, just to make it a bit clearer, I'm going to actually change the color of this to, let's go to swatches. Oh, that is an ugly color. So looking for like a parchment sort of color, but I think I just have to go to the this thing here. That'll do. Okay. Just to set it aside. So what, basically what I'm saying here is that this yellow is an example map and community sheet, and all the grayed out areas are artwork that I want to stick in. And that's it. Okay. I guess one thing I could show is how artwork works and how artwork, let's do it here, how artwork interacts with the text you're creating. So we're going to come here, we're going to say, okay, village creation. I actually have a piece of art for Nord Saga, which I can place in here. So I'm going to go click here, 9 little bees. Where's Nord Saga? There it is. Nord Saga art, commission from Anna. And we're going to go with that low res. Is that, I want the low res one? Oh, final high res. There we go. Okay, there we go. I have some nice artwork of a village. Let's make it a bit smaller. Now, what I want to show here is how some elements of this work. How am I going to do this? This is actually not a great example. It's about wrapping the text around an image. Because this image has a lot of, this almost should be framed and not have anything dipping down too close to it. So I'm going to go back up here to the introduction. This is a better place to do it. Let me just delete. Do undo a couple of times to get that gray box back. There we go. Okay. So instead I'm going to come here, I'm going to place an image, and I'm going to place the bear, I think. Yeah, we'll place the bear down. I want the bear to be here. I want it to be kind of in line with the text. No, let's not do the bear, because the bear's got some, hasn't been set up properly for that. I'm going to use some character art. So commission from Chris. It's not in there, is it? It's here. Okay, so we're going to go with, I'm going to use one of the Jotnar. One with the antlers. He's the face of Nord Saga. Alright, I'm going to stick this guy right here on the page. Okay, and then while I've got him selected, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say, let's look at text wrapping options. And we want to do a tight text wrap around this guy. I'm using him as an example because he's got these fucking annoying antlers. And what happens is the text is wrapping really nicely. Look at this, wrapping really nicely around his shoulder. But because this is a PNG, and if I open this, in fact, if I was to stick him here, you'd be able to see exactly what's happening. I've colored, it's a transparent PNG with black lines, and I have meticulously gone through and added a white layer behind it, so that the that there's actually, the white is data, and all of the transparent elements, there's no data there. So the text will wrap as close to it can get to image data, either black, white, or any kind of color. But if it's transparent, it'll go right up next to it. So I've colored it in so that, like, here's if I didn't do that, I'd have his like chest here. There's a big gap. If that was transparent, then you might get like a small word like a or an, and it would pop like right in the middle of his chest. You would probably not even be able to see it unless you were lucky, and the word would be missing from the text. So the coloring in that white is pretty necessary. Also because the background for my so here's another thing I could do. So if I would go to Village Master, for example, and I wanted to change the background, I wanted to put a background on here. Oh, I can do something even cooler here. Let's put a parchment on. All right, so this is my background. I'm going to put it below the grunge so the grunge pops out. Whoa, not like that. Here we go. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's not great because what I would actually want to do is make this a little bit more transparent. So I would actually do that. There's a way to increase, to add opacity to it, which I think might be right-clicking on it. Or here. It's here. Sorry, opacity 100%. Just lower the opacity down to like 50. So there we go. I'd have to hit enter. Okay. So there I have this like this background, right? So if I come back here, oh, okay, and the text is behind it as well. So I want this right at the bottom, so the text is actually above it as well, right? So the text is popping. There we go. Okay. I wouldn't use this. It's in fact on the Nord Saga document. I actually do have that. You can just barely see there's some lines here, but I have it so faint that it's only adding a very, very little bit that you can't really, to the kind of overall feel. I mean, maybe you can see it, but I can't on my monitor anyway. So it's a little bit more noticeable here, I think. Like on the edges here, you can see that there's like some, it's like really low res on this example, but it's there. Anyway, so here it is, and what you can see here with this guy is, I'm on the intro, right? If I was to move him down here, so basically what I'm trying to say is it looks fine like this because I've kept the white to his lines, and I wanted to keep it like that because I knew that I was using a background, and one way I could solve the issue of the words going between his antlers like that, right, is to put white between his antlers here. So there's no possibility of words popping in because you've put some white data in there. But the problem with that is that when you stick this over a background, it's no longer transparent. You would see like a white circle behind his head, like a halo almost. And I don't want that. So that is the easy solution, would be just to basically, to really control it, is I could put, in fact, I actually have an example I can show you. In art commission, it's here. Look at this. No, not that one. Hold on. Here we go. Like that. See, I've basically put like use a white paintbrush to paint around it, so that if the words are getting close, they're gonna follow like a nice line, and not have like, because there's like little hairs poking out of his cloak. It was causing some weird artifacts with text, and there was all like here as well. I had some weird words popping in, which I really didn't like. So my solution in Nord Saga was just to not do text wrapping and just to treat it as a square, because it was with the background it was too annoying. But if I put it up here, it doesn't become an issue. If I'm not using a background, look at that. You can't tell, right? You can see here there's like this line, but if I'm putting this in here, it's a white background and it's the white I've put in there. You wouldn't notice. And then I select here to have like a tight wrap with like 2 millimeters around it. Look at that, perfect. And if I want to get rid of that these words here, this heinous, for example, I can just like hit up a little bit until it pops away. Like that. There we go, perfect. And there we have a really nice wrapping, text wrapping around this image. Anyway, that's just something I wanted to show before the stream ends, is how text wrapping works. Obviously, these art assets I've commissioned for Nord Saga and not Pitchfork, so we'll get rid of them. Yeah. Cool. I don't know if you guys are still there, but thanks for watching. Yeah. 5 minutes left to the stream's finish. I might keep going a little bit, but yeah, this is like I'm just kind of covering a lot of ground here. What I'll probably do for next time, if I'm going to come back into Affinity, is I will probably go through and I'll probably try all of these different. I'll look at like my second level header, for example. So if I was to do introduction and I wanted to put in here like a header that says, I don't know, blah blah blah. Highlight that. And then say, I want that to be header 2. I'm usually using, I'm going down to maybe 2 or 3 headers. Now, it's just defaulting to Arial again because I haven't said anything for that. So for this one, I would probably also do Dominican, but I might do italics, for example, to set it apart. And I don't want it 20, I want it like that. So if I do blah, 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 there's my level 2 header. I'll actually just say that for now. I might not keep it like that. But I might go through and just do that for everything and get everything exactly how I want it to look. If I say, for example, introduction, intro, and make that. So this is what you do: is you like put a level 1 and a level 2 next to each other because they often do that. They often follow each other. Preview mode, so I can see it without the lines in the way. And I'm looking at gaps, like gaps between things. And so if I'm looking at header 2, for example, header 2 has a massive gap between the text below it, and I don't like that. I actually want the text to be really close to it. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to drop that down to 6 point. Maybe even 4 point, like that. Okay. Above it, 12 is what it's currently at. This header 1 has a 12 below it, so I know if I put 12 above it, nothing's happening because that buffer's already there from the intro. But I could make it bigger and say, like, let's make this higher than 12, and it's going to start dropping it down like that. See? So 12, it doesn't go any lower than 12. But like I could say, okay, I want it to be 6. I always want it to be 6. And I want the intro, I want that to be less than 12. I want that to be 6. If I make this less than 6, it's not going to get any smaller because I've got the 6 on the second header there. So, for example, if I do it like 1. But if I do it like that, what you have to think of is this is while it's next to a level 2 header. I also have them next to normal text here, right? So here I have this at 12. So if I was to reduce this down to like 0, I've got, you know, like the I from the community and the G from design are touching each other. That's way too close. So you want something like 6 normally. 12 is a little bit much, especially if I'm trying to work with constrained space. So 6 kind of works. Yeah. So I think I'd probably leave it at something like this. And I want the level 2 to be a little bit closer. But in fact, no, I think that's fine for now. So it's just something like that. So I've done that. Highlight that text, styles, update, header 1. I'm going to do the same thing. Text, styles, and update. Cool. So yeah, and it's done that for everything. You see here, I double click on this. I've got 6 point there. Yeah. One thing I thought I changed here is that I didn't want 6 between paragraphs. I wanted, oh, maybe I'd change it from 12 to 6. I might actually reduce that even more. I might reduce that to 4. Yeah, reduce that to 4, which is the same as the paragraph space between bullets and numbered lists. So there we go. Everything's just kind of shifted a little bit closer together. So one thing I haven't done. So yeah, so I like putting bold and underlining, and like basically what I've done in my my playtest document. I've underlined things, made some things in bold somewhere. I'm sure I did, but basically what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to take a lot of this stuff out. I'm going to drop it into Affinity, and I'm going to start working directly within Affinity, because what I really want, as I said at the beginning, I want to keep an eye on having this two-page spread as I'm going. So everything is really laid out in a way that it's easy to read and digest the information you're looking at. If you want to reference something, it's all on 2 pages. It's a really great way to read role-playing game books, and we're starting to see more of them that are designed in this way. A great example is Mothership. All of the games that are made in the Mothership line are designed with readability and good layout kind of as at their core. Another good example, as I've been holding up, is Merkborg, Hypertellurians. These all have really excellent layouts, and they're looking at a lot of these things. We're trying to keep, you know, as much as possible, trying to keep stuff to spreads. And yeah, it just makes it a lot easier to read, to understand the information, digest it, and also to reference it later if you need to. So, yeah, to answer Attila's question, am I going to continue to carry on writing Pitchfork in Affinity Publisher? Probably. I've got it installed. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to do it. The downside, though, is that I can write in Google Docs on my phone if I'm looking, like, I have a son who's going to be turning 5 in a week, and I look after him. Sometimes he's happily working on his own, you know, playing or drawing or something, and I've got I've got like maybe like 15 minutes of time where I could do, like, if I've got an idea in my head, I can pull up my phone and quickly you know, write it down or something. If everything is stored in Affinity, this is the big downside to it. I have to come up to my computer here, and I have to get into Affinity, and I have to do it like that. I can't use it on a tablet. I can't use it. I could use it on another machine if I was hosting the Affinity file on like a cloud service. That would work. But again, I don't have like I have a laptop, but it's a pretty old laptop, and I'm not sure it would run Affinity. I've not tried it. But Affinity is like a graphics program. They generally have higher, you know, minimum spec requirements to other programs. Anyway, the point is that, like, if I'm going to go this route, then I'm kind of committing to only adding to or writing on this program when I'm up here in my kind of like office space and able to have the time and the space to myself to be able to write. And that could be a good thing, because it might mean I'm separating my work from my home life a little bit more, which wouldn't be a bad thing. My wife would like that. So yeah, I have something I have to think about. how I want to do it. But yeah. So that's it. I mean, are there any other questions that people have that are on the stream? Just have a quick look at how many of you are there. 2 viewers, apparently. So I'm probably talking to nobody. Attila, you're still there. Cool. Yeah, so my next episode is going to be not continuing on with this. One thing I will do is I'm going to scrub this village creation section. I want this village creation section to really sing. I want to have this element of it finished by the next design diary, dev diary. I'm calling them now, including an example, including everything else, and that I'll save that as a separate. In fact, I'll show you how you export these things. You just go up here to File, Export, PDF. For print, no, we're going to do it for digital. High quality, small size, and I can click here on More, and I can really tell the program exactly what level of, like, how big or detailed or whatever I want the file to be. Okay, but just to use an example here, you can also say, like, I don't want to, if I've got it all hyperlinked, but I don't want the hyperlinks exported to PDF, you can just untick it and it won't include them, etc. So PDF, high quality, 300 DPI is overkill for what I want, but that's fine. I don't want to include the bleed. I don't want spreads. I want all the pages, and I don't want all the pages. I want a selection of pages. So the pages I want are village creation here, which is page 6, as you can see on the side. To should have checked this before I clicked on it. So pages 6 through to 17. So export. PDF, pages, 6 to 17, export. I'll put it on my desktop, and we'll call it Pitchfork Export Test. Here it is here. Double click on it. Look at that. And click on the single page view, and here I have a PDF of just the village pages. It's 12 pages. Village creation, 1, 2, the village map, how you do it, the tables I'll have to put in there, my example split in half, the village community table, rumors, threats, example community sheet, and a piece of artwork. And if I wanted to view it as a spread, I just select, it's not there, the options of it, the view, page display, 2-page view, and there we've got it like that. All right. So this would be a single piece of artwork going across, as I mentioned before, and then you could like that. That's how you would actually look at it as a printed product. So yeah, I'll try and have this finished. I've already got the text for all this written. Just want to flesh out a few more tables. So it's more about whether I'm going to find some old woodcuts or something from the medieval ages and just try and stick them in there for now. So that's it's a public domain art. Just so there's something in there, and I'll try and do some an example map, and also try and come up with a community sheet. So these are all things I'm going to do. So this will be finished for the next design diary, and then the idea is for the next design diary, I'm actually going to play test that village creation system. I've got some people who are up for joining me for that. If you're interested, it's going to be on a Sunday the Thursday. I don't actually remember. It's either going to be Thursday the 23rd, so which would be in 3 weeks time, or it's going to be Sunday the 26th from memory, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So anyway, I'm going to have some people here coming on for it, and I'm going to run them through this village creation. We're going to use Miro, which is this the online whiteboard I've used in the past, this program for Forbidden Lands. But it's really easy to just create a blank board, which I can't do because I have the free plan. So Scribble Play, I think this is one. So that map is the map from The Enemy Within from Wulfric. But basically, I just click here, and we can basically pick a color and just start scribbling on it and say, Okay, we're going to make an inn or a house or whatever. You know, anyone using it at the time will be able to have the same tools, and we can kind of click on one and we can move it around, whatever. So we'll probably use something like that collaboratively. It's an online collaborative whiteboard, and we're going to use that to create a village map together to test out that system I've created and also come up with a community, because playtesting is a really big part of development of a game. And you really don't have to wait until the whole thing's finished before you start. So if you have a full system in place, or you have part of a system in place and you want to try and test it out, the best thing to do is to play test it, because that's gonna show you where the errors are way more than just, you know, looking at writing and trying to think of the theory. So Thursday the 16th, that's the date. Thank you, Attila. So yeah, if anyone else is available, I think I've got 2 people down, a possible third. I'd be willing to do it for up to sort of 4 or 5 even. But yeah, 4 would be the ideal number, I think, for village creation. But yeah, anywhere between 3 and 5, I'll be happy. So I'm going to stop the stream here, I think. Yeah, that was Affinity Publisher. If you have any feedback for me on it, or you want to ask me any questions, then the place to get in touch with me is all at the bottom of the screen. You can see all of my social media links for this channel. Discord I use more than anything else, so I'm on there every day interacting with people. So yeah, if you're a Discord user, then follow that link, 3skulls.tv/Discord, and that will actually it's a redirected URL that'll give you the invite when you type it into a browser. Anyway, yeah, I'd love to hear some feedback from people. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, you know, whether you thought this was a cool video, if you want to see more of them. I'm planning on doing more of them. I didn't really want to do a tutorial in terms of like how Affinity Publisher works, but I've kind of done that. So I think what I'm going to be doing in future is I'm going to be having content already in the tool, and I will be, as I'm kind of working with the content, I will be talking about what I'm doing, so you can kind of learn through watching and seeing me use it, rather than kind of trying to do official tutorials. Again, there are some great tutorials for Affinity Publisher on their website, which is here, 54 videos at the time of recording, and they're great. They cover almost every aspect of the tool. So yeah, and easy to watch. There again, some of them are longer. Textiles, for example, there's a lot in there with textiles. It's a 17-minute video, so some of them are over 5-10 minutes, but the vast majority of them are under 5 or around 5. It's when you get to the more kind of crunchy, some of the more complex themes that they get longer. Anyway, so that's me. Thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Thanks. Yeah. And by the way, if you're watching on Twitch, or you're a Twitch user and you're watching this on YouTube, if you want to be alerted to when I go live in future and you want to interact with me, head over to the Twitch channel. The links will be in the video description, and hit the follow button, because basically what that does is it gives you an email when I go live, so you get that alert, and yeah, you can interact with me live and ask me questions, whatever, the usual type of thing. Cool. Thanks very much, and catch you next time. Bye.